Good day. If you know South Africa, you will know of a politician called Julius Malema. Julius Malema was the youth leader of the African National Congress when it had very respected leaders like Mandela, and even when Thabo Mbeki was president, he was also the youth leader. But eventually, he got into a problem with South Africa's recent leader, Jacob Zuma. And after having that problem with Jacob Zuma, he left the ANC, where he was a youth leader. He was a firebrand youth leader, and he formed a party called the Economic Freedom Fighters. Julius Malema has one agenda. Economic Freedom Fighters has always put the agenda of expropriation of white land as their main talking point all through since the party was formed. He was dogged about it because he was looking after the model that Robert Mugabe used in Zimbabwe to expropriate land from the white colonialists who had also expropriated land from the blacks before and disenfranchised the blacks of much of the more productive agricultural land. So when you see Zimbabwe being very agricultural and you also see agricultural output by the white South Africans, it has to do a lot with their history. Julius Malema forced the issue until recently, this year. The ANC, seeing that he was chipping away at their popularity, they enacted a law, the New Appropriation Act, that established a framework by which government, the South African government, could acquire private property for public purpose. That law was used as and said to be a law against the whites. And that was a law that eventually made the white South Africans to feel that they were undergoing genocide, and they ran to Donald Trump. And President Donald Trump recently confronted South African President Ramaphosa in the White House, alleging that they're taking land away from the white people. But it was Julius Malema, and Julius Malema he formed a consequential party, probably a third, maybe not the third because South Africa has some other parties, but he formed a party that stood on an issue that was very important to South Africans. The same has happened in America, where another South African born, very successful Wall Street man, Elon Musk, has come and immersed himself very, very wholeheartedly. He's all in American technology, American manufacturing, and now in American politics. The Elon Musk recently formed a party called the America Party, but there's a little history behind it. Much as he had a lot of issues against the Democratic Party, where he had been a long-term a member and a supporter and founder of the party, he broke ranks with them when he didn't like the policies they were pursuing under the Biden administration, and then he supported Donald Trump. But while he was supporting Donald Trump, he had one agenda. Clearly, he wanted an efficiency in government, and so he was given to be the director of government efficiency. He has always called for fiscal responsibility in government because he feels that putting more layers of debt on government spending was not a good thing for the American government. And so he had called for fiscal responsibility, he had called for better better management and budgetary discipline. But unfortunately, when Trump was preparing his big, beautiful bill for the 2026 appropriation year, he now found out that he had been deceived and he broke ranks with Donald Trump. And he first he said he was going to primary out every congressman who signed or senator who signed on approved that bill. But I think he has chosen to form a party, the America Party. He did a Twitter poll with X, which is his platform, and over 80% of the respondents to that poll said that he should form a party. Elon Musk forming a new party in America is consequential, and it's causing a lot of worries, especially among the Republicans. The first person to say something negative about the bill, about his project, new project, is obviously Donald Trump himself, who sees the threat to the Republican Party if Elon Musk forms a party, and he says he's going to form the party. He has responded and said it is a wacky move on the part of Elon Musk. Governor Ron DeSantis and quite a lot of Republicans too have also started to say that it's very clear that it is the Republican Party that stands to lose. Because in Congress and in the Senate, they do hold very little margins. And Elon Musk has said his strategy is a very simple one. He will focus on a few seats where he knows that the Republicans and the Democrats may not be very strong, and they will try to get as much of or as many congressmen. He has targeted 8 and possibly 3 or 4 senators. His strategy is simple. If these two other parties are deadlocked, the Republicans and the Democrats, if they are deadlocked, then balance of power now will be in the hands of his 4 senators and possibly his 8 legislators. And for that, he will now make sure that that party has an influence and their voice is heard, and they can impute and affect policy going forward, because they will only support whoever's a policy they feel is in the best interest and that aligns with them. Balance of power in politics is not new. The reality we see today in the Middle East, the one shaped by Israel, the one that has had Israel having a very strong response to the October 7th Hamas issue in Gaza, has been due to the fact that there was a balance of power in the hands of some extremist legislators like Ben-Gvir and Smoldrich. These are two people who formed parties that are very extremist. They didn't have a lot of candidates in the Israeli Knesset, their parliament. But what happened was that in trying to form a government, Netanyahu reached out to them, and theirs are very extreme. Everybody knew them to have been extremists because for long they have always held extremist views and held extremist positions, like chasing away the Palestinians from Gaza and chasing away and wiping out all Palestinians. And if we see a reflection of what Israel is today now, it has a lot to do with that. Those 3, 4, 5 legislators that helped Netanyahu to stay in power. Because anytime Netanyahu is almost going against what they want, they will always say they will pull out of government. And that simply means Netanyahu's government will fall. And Netanyahu has been chased around in Israel with court cases, corruption cases particularly. That means he's just one step away from going to jail if he's out of government. That may also explain why he has such a big appetite for going to wars. So with just that 3 or 4 legislators, the defense minister, the finance minister in Israel, they have such power and they have they have had such an imprint in the new Israeli government of Netanyahu, this iteration of the Netanyahu administration, because of their role. They don't have a very big platform, but their roles in helping him keep power has shaped this thing. This has also happened in Germany, where the role of the Green Party was always needed to form government, and the Green Party had a great role in shaping the environmental laws that saw to the removal of the removal of the use of nuclear energy in Germany, and all the policies that we saw that are now counter to Germany's industrial growth. So don't take it lightly. Elon Musk knows what he is doing. And carrying on with the theme of balance of power, I want to just talk about what just happened in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, where right before us, we are seeing a new tectonic shift in the balance of power between the G7 and the Western world and the Global South. The Global South here being represented by the BRICS, and the Western world being represented by the G7. The BRICS just had a conference in Rio de Janeiro. And in that conference, the BRICS now, we should know, have 11 members from the original four that expanded to five. Now they have 11. And they have 10 partner nations now. The BRICS now contribute they have almost half of the world's land mass because they have India, China, they have almost half of the world's population. And by way of purchasing power parity, they have well over 50 to 60% of the world's GDP now. Maybe by nominal GDP, they are still a little bit below that of the West. But that's not the issue. They are breaking away completely, forming new pathways for trade, forming new pathways for finance. And in every single meeting and every single time they meet, they come up with policies that wither and treat some of the powers and influence of the West. And this is what has just happened in the Rio de Janeiro meeting. We are slowly seeing a balance of power in global finance and global trade and even in global innovation change. Because don't forget, China is now leading the world as regards to innovations. It has long been thought that China was a copying nation, but not anymore. China now is at the leading edge of, of innovation. India also is now a manufacturing hub, and countries like UAE, Saudi Arabia, and all these other countries that form, they are all now financial hubs, logistic hubs. That means that trade can go on within this community without needing the West as they always used to. Before you will need to go to London or you go to New York to find financial services or capitals for any project. These days you can go to Shanghai, you can go to UAE, and for countries like Russia, without the BRICS or just because of the BRICS and the countries in the BRICS, they were able to withstand all the assault of 22,000 rounds of sanctions. That wasn't there when Venezuela was being sanctioned. It wasn't there in the past when Iran was being sanctioned. But Iran is now a member of BRICS, and Iran has started to grow economically again because the sanctions against Iran is not recognized by countries like China. They felt that the people who placed it on it didn't use the instrument of the United Nations, and it was unilateral. And the fact that they can stand up as a group to the Western neoliberal thinkers and policymakers and survive and thrive and become attractive to more countries will show you that truly there's a balance of power and a change going on in the world right before us. I've said that the Chinese are leading now in innovation. In many steps, they are leading in high-speed rails, even in nuclear, even in space technology. They are leading because if you talk of the most modern space station out there, is the Tiangong. And even if you talk of so many other endeavors, including manufacturing, dark factories, all these things, robotics, the Chinese are leading. And the Chinese are not just leading, the Chinese have become the purveyors and the ones who give access to of these innovations they have to the world. The whole world is China's market. Why I say this is because we have a company in China called Huawei. Huawei gives the world, almost all of the world, the global south, its access to data centers. It is through Huawei's data networking and base stations that most of the world has their 5Gs and their 4Gs and all their access to GSM communication because they are the preeminent sellers of that particular product in the world. Even though they have been stymied and tried to be killed by the Donald Trump regime of the 45th presidency, Huawei continues to innovate. And now Huawei has put itself forward again as a savior or the deliverer of the global south in terms of one of the cutting edge technologies by which America continues to hold an advantage, and that's AI. The race for AI and superconductors is closing getting closer because the Chinese are closing and the balance of power is moving slowly towards the Chinese. There is there are two major players in the AI space now that we see all the time on Bloomberg and all these financial services firms. And one of them is Jason Wang, and the other is Sam Altman. Jason Wang is the leader of NVIDIA, and Sam Altman is the leader of, ChatGPT. NVIDIA makes chips that are needed for data centers that give us AI, that give us cloud computing, that give us cryptocurrencies, that do a lot of crunching of numbers at an amazing rate. And Jensen Huang realizes that the Chinese are closing the gap, whatever gap that the Americans used to have, especially Huawei. Huawei is now the, giving us so much or so much advantage that they are creating their own chips that are just a step behind, if not even at par with the chips that Nvidia makes. And to show that there's a concern, while Huawei is being blocked by the American government from selling their chips to the other parts of the world, because this is where the world is now. Like I said, there is no breaking away from the influence and power of the Western world unless you have technology. And now that China is having technology and sharing that technology and spreading that technology to members of the BRICS and members of the Global South, it's becoming a worry. Nobody has to go through American products again if you want to have data centers. And nobody also want to go through Sam Altman and ChatGPT if you want to have AI bots and AI models like that because of DeepSeek, because of Gwen, because of the products of Alibaba, the products of Tencent and Baidu, all the AI models that are being put out there by the Chinese companies are creating pathways. And this is a concern, like I said to Sam Altman, and it's also a concern. It's such a concern to America that even Donald Trump made a big pronouncement the other day that anybody who buys Huawei chips will be contravening American law. This is where we see the world now. The balance of power is shifting. First, Elon Musk is shaking the foundations of American politics. BRICS is becoming a problem to the world, so much so that Donald Trump shot back recently and said that any country that is trying to bypass American financial systems or de-dollarize, which is one of the big goals of the BRICS, would have increased tariffs slapped on them. Meanwhile, Huawei and American and Chinese are changing the reality as regards to things like as simple as solar panels. They're helping the world get access to solar panels, cheaper curtains, all the things that are very expensive, that used to be very expensive, cheaper cars, cheaper automotive products, cheaper robotics, cheaper software, not to talk of cheaper entertainment in the form of TikTok, and even cheaper companies like Amazon, in which they have their own Shein and Pinduoduo and Alibaba. This is where the world is now. And it is thanks to the fact that we're watching balance of power move slowly and slowly, and things are just shifting in front of us. And this all tying into how countries can stand up to old traditional masters or bullies or people who used to shape and redefine the world. I said in a video today how the world changes and it's changing in front of us. And we are seeing it. We are at the threshold of the formation of the American Party, but we are not, we are far gone into the formation of BRICS. And we are definitely far gone into the different iterations of Huawei and the Chinese technology that is continually growing and changing the world and the reality of the world as we see it today. This is where I end my video for today. If you like what I said, or if you have any comment as regards to what the ideas I expressed here, please put them in the comment section. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe. Until I see you in the next video, please like and share. Thank you.